Damn. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever felt?
Are you listening? Damn. Yeah. Yeah.
What is up, everybody? Hopefully everything is working. Let me know in the chat if it isn't, if there's anything wrong with audio or anything like that. But welcome to FPL Today Live. Thank you so much for joining me. We're finally getting a stream up at a relatively decent time for the game week on a Monday, which is absolutely brilliant. I'm just happy I'm getting on live and hopefully getting back to regular live streams again. We did one last week on Friday just before the game week started. Ideally, I want to do them earlier than that, and I want to help you guys and do it at least 2 times a week is my aim, as well as the Wildcats, but we'll see what's up with that. As far as the stream goes, first of all, we have to find out what everyone's drinking. Apologies for those of you that really want to see me drink alcohol and make those drunk transfers that I used to make back in the day, but at the moment I'm just drinking water, because it's that time of the month, near the end of the month, where I don't have that much money, and I had to rush home for this stream and get my kids to bed, so I didn't have any time to buy any alcohol. So water today, but it's really, really hot. This room, with a light shining on me to try and make everything look good, I am absolutely baking. And as soon as this stream's done, I'm getting out of this room because it's too hot in here with this computer running. You know what my fans like. You all hear it all the time anyway. So we will start this stream off. First off, I want to say a big thank you to Kennedy. He is in the chat. We did try to set something up for today's stream. It didn't quite work, but we will try it again in the future. But thank you, Kennedy, for your patience and your time earlier. I also want to just say a quick thing about some stuff that's happening around the Twitter scene and the YouTube scene regarding pretty much the haters. Now, I'll get into some teams. I'm going to review some teams from my patrons, answer some questions, and then we'll get into the chat. And we'll talk about my team, of course, but I just want to say one thing, and I suppose it's relevant for me to talk about as well, because my rank isn't the highest. As you can see on the screen right now, it's 1.569 million, which for me is pretty low. I generally have started off a lot better than this. Me as a content creator, I just want to say I don't really mind criticism. I don't even really care if someone does it in a really negative way. The job I do, which some of you guys know, revolves around security. I've had to deal with people being extremely rude to me and extremely violent towards me. So when I see some words written on the screen, personally for me, it doesn't affect me, because as soon as someone acts like that around me, I'm not too fussed about them. They're not really my priority anymore. However, there's been a big swell of people being negative towards content creators, Twitter, on YouTube, because they haven't got the magic team that's helped other people get a magic team by copying their team. Now, what I want to say is, please do not think you have to copy my team to do well. I give my opinions, I show you my team, and I want to help you guys build your own teams. Don't copy my team. If you like certain players I've got, then yes, put them in your side as well. But if you're looking at my team and you're thinking, Perez, why the hell is he in there? Because I'm thinking that as well. Then do put someone else in the side. Don't just copy people. Play the game. What's the fun if you're just copying someone else's side? And if you are unhappy with a content creator, the last thing you should be doing is being ridiculously negative towards them. They're putting themselves out there, putting their opinion out there, and taking their time to create content, which they don't have to do. And yes, some of us get paid now, some of us don't. But we are still putting ourselves out there, taking our time, giving our thoughts. We can't predict the future. If I could predict the future, I wouldn't have to make videos. I could literally play a game like Fan Team, win every game week, and be rich anyway. We're putting our opinions out there. We're not mind readers. We don't predict the future. We are just making our best educated guesses on how the season will go and who will score the most goals and get the most assists at its core. So, don't be an idiot. That's basically what I want to say. And enough with that. We'll get into my team first, just quickly, because I do want to look at some of my patrons' teams and questions, and then get to the chat. I've had my rant now, it's over. Overall points. I'm now on 164 points, putting me at 1.569 million. Out of 6.447 million players. That's not awful. 59 points this game week. That is with a -4, however. And we'll go to points. And as you can see, my transfers from last week, I did take a -4. We had Digne come in for Robertson Unfortunately, Digne didn't keep a clean sheet, but he still looked like an attacking threat. De Bruyne came in just because De Bruyne felt really dangerous to me in the 2 games I watched him in. And for me, I think maybe the triple on City is better than the triple on Liverpool right now, with their defence looking a bit, although of course Zinchenko didn't keep a clean sheet either. De Bruyne got an assist from a scuffed shot, not a very De Bruyne-like assist, but he's still got some points. Sterling did get a goal, which I'm happy about, especially considering his underlying stats weren't as good as it has been in some other games. Perez, there's Jose Perez. Jose, I had such high hopes for you. Kind of wish Benitez had stayed at Newcastle, they got Rondon, and then I don't know what kind of Perez I'll be having, hopefully. Salah would have been the better captaincy option. I've not been getting the captaincy call right. I keep getting the wrong one out of Sterling and Salah, which is unfortunate. And we did say goodbye to Wilson, who did get an assist, but we said hello to Barnes. And overall, I probably made up that -4 points. But my team wouldn't have done too bad. Deulofeu had some good underlying stats. It was against West Ham. So it was an okay week. It was a game week I needed just to see some of these green arrows, because it had been a while. I forgot what the colour green looked like on the fantasy football page. As far as my team for next week, at the moment, we're probably still going to line up with the 3-4-3. I may take another -4 because I want Pukki in this side. And it's probably going to be for Jota with Everton away as the first fixture he's got. Newcastle away for Deulofeu. I'm hoping. Bournemouth at home for Leicester. I'm hoping. So it's probably going to be Jota who goes out for Pukki. But to get Pukki in, I need to take a -4 for value. And that's probably going to be Perez down to someone like Cantwell, because I think he could raise in price a lot, the Norwich midfielder. And I want to get on that train before I lose too much of the potential value in someone like him. Then Dendoncker may be the one that gets upgraded, and the Cantwell will be my cheap midfielder. Rico, I'm hopeful, will play again. Unfortunately, Charlie Daniels had a bit of a negative injury. Hopefully he's okay. And then Lundstrom, he's going to stay on my side. I think he's going to keep rising in value, and I think that's going to be beneficial in the seasons to come. Just check the chat to make sure everything is going all right. Cool. Everything seems cool. To be honest, Mustafa Amar, you're going to like my videos, because that is pretty much what I'm going to do, because I really like the look of Mount. So basically, Pukki is the striker I want. And as far as midfielders, I'm looking at Cantwell, Mount, McGinn, and maybe Harry Wilson at Bournemouth. Those right now are the ones I really want. And also, the double up on Norwich, Cantwell will probably be a bench player, to be honest. Doc Dust, and I have to get to the Patron teams because I promised Kennedy I would review his team after what he did for me earlier. I believe the best option potentially at West Ham could be Sebastian Haller. I worried that Pellegrini's going to rotate the 3 behind him depending on the opponents, which could affect Lanzini's game time. I think Lanzini potentially is the most nailed on out of the players behind Haller. But I think the assists could come from all over the place. I think potentially the goals are going to gravitate towards Sebastian Haller. He looked very good against Watford. So, I'll be honest, the reason West Ham struggled to get in my side is because I often get hurt by West Ham. I think the last time I successfully had a West Ham player was probably Arnautovic. And then before that, it was Dimitri Payet. Other than that, Felipe Anderson had a brief period where he did well for me, but not too big a fan. Anyway, I do have to go to Discord just to quickly review some teams. The Discord channel is open to patrons. It's only $1 to become a member, where we talk FPL and we can share our teams. So Kennedy and Bryce Lieur have both shared their teams, so I'm going to have a quick talk about their sides as well. We won't talk about the same people's sides every game week, but we'll talk about their 2 sides now. We'll go with Kennedy first, if we can bring it bigger up on the screen. Okay, so we've got Pickford in goal, potentially a very good goalkeeper. I think Everton still look strong defensively. They don't look that strong on the attack. Decent at saving penalties, so every game week you may get that lucky game week where you get a penalty save. So I like Pickford. Is it my style to have someone like Pickford? No, just because I prefer a cheaper goalkeeper. But it was gutting for Pope not to get that clean sheet in the dying minutes of that Burnley Wolves game. Maitland-Niles, there's potential there for attacking returns, but Arsenal defensively I'm not too confident in. Alexander-Arnold is my Liverpool defender of choice. Kyle Walker I can't argue with. There is of course the worry of Cancelo potentially coming in for Walker. I think Walker is playing for his position though and has definitely improved. Also there's the argument that Cancelo may come in for Zinchenko instead, so we've got to keep an eye out for that. We have De Bruyne. Can't argue with that. I literally took a -4 to get De Bruyne in, so I think De Bruyne is a great choice. Ayoze Perez, I still think this season at some point he could be a really, really good option. The issue I have with Perez is the underlying stats right now suggest he's struggling to really find his feet in that side, which is perfectly fine for a player because some players, they just take some time before they hit the ground running in the side. He's just transferred there. But for now, he's not getting the job done, which means we need to consider how to get him out of our sides. Up front, King, not too far off of Wilson's returns, but Wilson's been very, very consistent with his assists, but King, of course, is cheaper. But if that's what has enabled you to have the likes of Pukki, then, I mean, go for it. Pukki right now is just on fire. And what's interesting, and I believe there was a question in Discord regarding Pukki and Barnes, it's interesting to compare their stats, which we will do in a second. And then bench Button's pretty much the go-to £4 million midfielder, defender, goalkeeper. Then Walker-Peters. I worry about his place once Foyth and Aurier come back, but for now it's fine there. Bit expensive for my bench, I think, but you've got Kelly in at the moment, so Kelly's your cheap defender. Then Donker and Long, at least they play. Does Long play? I think he does. Shea Adams and I feel like it's Danny Ings. So I feel like you could potentially find a cheaper striker if he's not starting all the time. But overall, it's a strong team. A few areas to change, but I think a lot of people have that at the moment, unless they wildcarded. And then we have Bryce Leur's team. Has he put 2 teams in? Let's have a quick look at. Or is he asking potentially what starting lineup to go with? Okay, that was the points. So points-wise, last game week, I can't see it straight away, but let's see how quick my maths is. 25, 32, 34, 36, 38, 43, 45, 47, 49. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, but that looks like a 49 to me. Not awful, but I suppose that wouldn't have seen much of a rise if it did get any at all. Anyway, this is the one I want. So next week it's Lloris. There's a lot of people looking towards Lloris, but I just don't see the value in him as a goalkeeper, personally. I mean, if Newcastle can score against Spurs, then again, I suppose there's not been many clean sheets anywhere at the beginning of this season. Can't argue with the defence because it's the defence I've got and I'm in no rush to change it. Midfield-wise, Son for me, everyone's gone for Son because of the value, of course, because it's not Kane. I feel like it's too early to bring in one of those players when I have the likes of Martial to look at, although apparently I've heard Martial might have picked up an injury. Can't argue with Salah or De Bruyne. I would worry not having Sterling in the side, and I know it means my midfield is very, I don't know, top heavy, I suppose you could say that, because I'm going to have 2 very cheap midfielders, but I feel like Sterling is almost a must. Sigurdsson hasn't really done much. Everton don't look very dangerous going forward. Trossard, there's potential there, definitely. I'm keeping my eye on Trossard. Then Pukki Barnes. If anyone argues with Pukki and Barnes right now, they're insane, they're crazy. But those are the 2 teams we're looking at from the Discord. And as for questions, we started off with Bryce asked what to do with Trossard. I mean, look, Bournemouth scored against City. Spurs scored against City with only like 2 proper chances. I would always go towards playing the attacking players because they could always still get a return. The only issue is I think Trossard didn't start the first game week because he wanted more experience in what he thought was going to be a tougher game when they played Grosh. So maybe that can happen again. As for Deulofeu, what to do with him? He has to go eventually. You can maybe hold him a little bit longer, hoping he does something against a weak opponent next. But I think you definitely have to... I think I'm answering questions from a while back. Yep, my mistake, people. Here are the questions for today. But anyway, there's still my thoughts on them. Pukki and Barnes and Harry Wilson are the 2 people to focus on. So Pukki or Barnes, we will go to that first. And it should already be up there. So, if we compare Teemu Pukki and Ashley Barnes, 35 points to 25, points per game, you can see where the points are lying. What interests me, though, is, if you just look at it like that, Pukki is the better option. Both around the same price. But if we have a look at the heat map, I would suggest Pukki roams the pitch more than Barnes does. As in, you can see a few more hotspots out wide, although Ashley Barnes has one particular hotspot right out on the right wing. I don't know if that's because he's somewhere where Pope can pass to quickly if need be, but there's a few more hotter spots for Ashley Barnes right here and right here, which suggests his focus is more on being the man that is there to score the goals. Whereas Pukki, you got a few hot spots that are that's not too much hotter than the ones around here, which suggests he's more involved in the play. Again, that might be why he's got more attempted assists at 4-0. If we have a look at the shots, again, though, despite that, Pukki has more shots inside the box. And he hasn't shot from outside the box. Whereas Barnes, of course, scored that goal against Wolves from outside the box. Good finish, to be fair to him. And then average position, Pukki is actually just a little bit more advanced, which is interesting to see. More touches of the ball for Barnes and Pukki. That might be indicative of some of their opponents. But then we look at the attacking stats, 5 goals to 4. What interested me is the expected goals is lower for Pukki than it is for Barnes, even though Pukki has scored more. That can mean one of 2 things. It can either mean Pukki is just that good a finisher, or it means Pukki can't keep up the output potentially as much as Ashley Barnes. But both of them have at least doubled, more than doubled easily, their expected goals. Shots-wise, very similar. 12 to 13 in Barnes' favour. On target, 9 to 8 in Pukki's favour. Expected assists, Barnes has no attempted assists, no chance creation. So Pukki wins for me quite easily right now. However, I would suggest if you can have both, right now they look potentially the type of players that could score against anyone. A bit like Raul Jimenez last year. Like, sometimes you'd drop him to the bench and he'd score against the big 6. So I think right now the value these 2 are offering, while some strikers elsewhere other than Aguero are faltering, Teemu Pukki and Ashley Barnes look great options for me. Will they keep it up? I feel like Barnes has the pedigree now where he's proven season after season that he is a clinical finisher. And Pukki did it last year in the Championship, and potentially Norwich could prove that they're ready for the step up in competition. And with Pukki leading that line, if the team is ready, then they're both great options. Right now, having looked at these stats, I can't see why you wouldn't want to bring him in. And as far as Harry Wilson goes, I'd suggest comparing him to... Sorry, I'm clicking all over the place. If we try and compare Harry Wilson to maybe your Ryan Fraser, because I'd suggest that with Brooks out, these are the 2 midfielders you'd look at from Bournemouth. You've got very poor points return from more minutes played for Ryan Fraser. What I would say is if we look at the shots, of course, if you haven't watched Match of the Day, Wilson can score a screamer and he can score a free kick. His chances, he has had some chances in the box as well though. So I'd say right now, with a lot less game time, more shots, attempted assists are very similar. And though two of Ryan Fraser's attempted assists have clearly come from corners. So only one assist in open play potentially, 2 attempted assists from Harry Wilson. Average position, I'd say it's quite similar. Ryan Fraser's heat map shows that he's very, very focused on playing out wide though. Whereas I'd suggest Fraser is probably more likely to get goals. And if he can score enough goals to... Because I still think Ryan Fraser will get assists this season. If he gets enough goals to counter Fraser's assists, because goals of course are more points than assists, I'd say Harry Wilson, if he nails himself down a first team place, could be a great pick this season. Anyway, that is it for all of that stuff. So thank you guys for patiently waiting in the chat if you have been waiting to get your questions answered. And let's have a look and see what we can cover in the chat as I close Discord and bring back up there. Okay. Doc Dust, I agree. Like, imagine if Harry Wilson had played instead of... I don't know if Harry Wilson can play as a striker. Ooh, what happened here? Sorry. Okay. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I am not anti-swearing. I swear in my personal life, but ideally you want to keep this as a place everyone can feel welcome. So try not to swear in the chat if you could. Harry Wilson at Liverpool would have been interesting because Mane, Salah, Firmino, they could all play that forward role. And imagine Harry Wilson either side of any of those 3 players. That could have been really good. Imagine 6 million Harry Wilson. If a player had got injured at Liverpool, knock wood, they don't. But say one of the players got injured and Harry Wilson had a prolonged period in that Liverpool side, then there is your Liverpool triple up without having to double up on defence, which I think people are moving away from. I know Let's Talk, FPL, Andy, I think he's pushing on with it for a bit longer. Me personally, I don't know why I did it. I've always been anti doubling up on defence, but I think Robbo and Trent's assists and attacking returns have just been so high recently that I couldn't resist it. £7 million for a player that could get an assist with a clean sheet, which is double digits. I couldn't resist it, but I think that is probably me done for doubling up on defence, for a while at least anyway. Okay. You alright, Real DMC? Good to see you in the chat. It's been a while, I think. Apologies if you've been in one recently. I tell you what, Bournemouth do like to take a risk on a loan, don't they? And I think they come up trumps with this loan of Harry Wilson. By the way, the reason I got Barnes so early is because I couldn't afford Pukki and get Kevin De Bruyne in a -4 anyway. I see a lot of talk about Tammy Abraham and Sebastian Haller. Well, that might be because I brought it up. Percy Lynch, the Discord is part of my Patreon. For $1 a month, you get access to that. What I do plan on doing as well, just so you guys know, is actually rating some teams every week as well, if I can get used to streaming more regularly, or at least fit it in. The issue I have, of course, is the daughters and everything and the work. But we'll see what we can do with that. But I do plan on doing a few more Rate My Teams. It's not my favourite thing, but I know you guys like it, so I will try and fit those in as well. Anyway, we will talk about, I believe, Haller and Abraham. Now, for me, In fact, we'll go back to the players suite, and then we can bring them both up. Not that I'm necessarily saying we should be comparing them, because I actually think Haller is a lot more secure as a starter, and Abraham, of course, plays in a side that I'd suggest are going to be higher in the table. Which isn't easy for me to say, because I prefer West Ham will be higher in the table, but have to be truthful. I have to give my honest opinion if I'm going to try and do well in this game. So, I'll start off with Tammy, because I've spoken a bit about Haller already. Sebastian Haller, I'm probably saying that wrong. So, 15 points, Tammy Abraham. 15 points, Haller. As far as goals go, it's 2 apiece. As far as heat map go, their heat maps are very similar. I would have thought it would be hotspots a bit higher than that. 5 shots to 7, although I think minutes-wise is actually quite similar, so it's actually quite easy to compare them. Passes, you've got a lot more passes for Haller. And from what I understand of Haller in Germany, he was a good link-up player. More attempted assists for Abraham, though. Average position quite similar. Expected goals a lot higher for Haller, which potentially means Abraham is doing a lot with the chances he gets, or he can't keep it up. I would suggest that Giroud and Abraham potentially... Oh, my daughter's up, by the way, if you hear any noise in the background, and I may have to BRB for a bit. But Abraham will play when the opponents are giving up space behind. Whereas I think if Lampard feels like they need that link-up player, then they will definitely use Giroud. Because I think Giroud brings out the best in players around him. For that reason, and don't get me wrong, it's purely like conjecture. Conjecture, is that the right word? I'm guessing that there's going to be rotation. It could be that Tammy Abraham is now the favourite striker, and Giroud just came in because he thought Abraham needed a few more training sessions, a few more weeks before he could settle in. I feel like Mount is the best option there. I feel like Mount is one of Lampard's favourites. He has performed well, and I just feel like because of that, he isn't going anywhere soon, and he will continue to be a starter. If I can find Mount, where is he? I assumed he'd been higher up in that list. Am I just not seeing his name? Ah, it's because of the red. So, look, there we go. For instance, I actually wanted to compare him to Abraham. Although he's had more minutes, we have to remember that. Okay, there we go. Heat map wise, we can see how advanced Mount is playing. I feel like he's shown enough that he could potentially keep that place. He's had more shots. I know he's played more passes, more attempted assists. I feel like Mount isn't going anywhere. So I feel like for my Chelsea coverage, unless I was going to double up, which is, of course, there's potential for, I feel like Mount is the best option. So for me, Abraham isn't someone I'm particularly interested in, but Haller for me, apologies if you can hear that. Another issue is my door is broken, so I can't even shut it properly. For me, Haller looks the best option at West Ham. So I would lean towards Haller more than I would Tammy, purely because I feel like Mason Mount is the best option in that Chelsea side right now, especially value-wise as well. How am I feeling about Barnes? I mean, Haller instead of Barnes. I mean, I'm quite familiar with Barnes' stats now. Haller, if he had one more game, probably wouldn't be too far behind. He is around his expected goals. So if he stayed around there, which is perfectly feasible, he has less room to drop compared to Barnes. Barnes and Pukki have been finishing chances that haven't had high expected goal ratios. Haaland doesn't seem to be scoring much more than he's expected to score. You can see that as a positive because it means, okay, if he's consistent, that's good. It doesn't mean suddenly the goals are going to drop off out of nowhere. Right now, having watched, because I've seen less of Haaland, I'm just worried that at Man City he got to show a little bit. We got a taste at Man City, and then we got a good showing against Watford. I want to see another good showing like I did against Watford. Edison Masani, as far as player rises go, and I saw best value part of Fantasy Football Fix as well from Percy. But I mean, we can highlight, because I'm allowed to now, some of the benefits of using Fix. For me, the bit I use the most is... I need to find the right page. There we go. I have built my own custom stats tables where I can literally look at whatever I want to look for and ignore everything else. So, for instance, the things I'm most interested in, and I do like the fact I can also put points in there as well, is I often look at stuff like big chances. How many big chances has a player had? How many shots on target? Because if they're getting a lot of their shots on target, that's always a plus. Maybe it'd be better if I look at strikers, because you'll see more interesting and intriguing numbers. But for instance, big chances. Now, Pukki is the highest scoring striker, for instance, with 5 goals. He's had 2 big chances. Aguero's had 4 big chances. Pukki hasn't had more big chances than anyone else. He's below the likes of Barnes. His expected goals is also below the likes of Barnes, Rashford, Aguero. So there's the potential there that Pukki could drop off and he's just had a really good start to the season. If we look at expected goals, that's another one I do like to look at. Rashford is just underperforming, but I mean, you can't score 0.2 of a goal. Haaland is around what he should be scoring, and then the likes of Aguero, Barnes and Pukki are overperforming what is expected to go into the net. Now that's good, because Aguero usually is scoring more than he's expected to. But does that mean we have the same faith in the likes of Barnes and Pukki as we do in Aguero? I don't think that's possible, but for me, this is what the most value I get, because I just like to look at the stats. I really do. As far as the price rise and the falls, we do have that as well, price change predictor. Now, you've got to remember, and there are other sites you can get this from as well, so I wouldn't necessarily put this as the most value feature. Already. Didn't he just go up as well? And that ownership is starting to look scary now. There's potential I make my transfer now. But you do have this feature, of course. You can see apparently Abraham's going to go up, Pukki is going to go up, Lundstrom's going to go up, and then these players are close. Sterling's close, Maitland-Niles is close, Barnes is close, Digne is close, Ceballos, who I don't think he got the chance to show much against Liverpool, but I'm interested in as a player as well, could go up. So you can also just focus on your squad as well to try and avoid price drops. Like right now, Deulofeu looks like he's very close to dropping in price. I just don't feel like I should be getting rid of him when it's Bournemouth. Is it Bournemouth next? Newcastle next. Although I'm really not feeling Deulofeu, Perez or Jota, and neither is the community pretty much. Interesting to see Salah still on the decline, although his progress is currently on the up. Whereas Dendonka's progress, probably because he didn't start, is slowly going down, but again, not a big issue. Yes, there is FPL statistics as well. But of course, I don't have rights to use their page. I have rights to use this page, so that's what I will show you guys. But actually, that's something I should actually show on streams a bit more. If you've got Fixture Analyzer. Again, a lot of other sites have this as well. Algorithm predictions, which I liked. One of the big things for me pre-season was we had the heat maps for last season for the likes of Norwich and Sheffield United and Aston Villa, which I think, pretty confident Fantasy Football Fix were the only site to have the actual underlying stats from last year's Championship promoted sides, which really helped me. You do have as well, I don't want to be too much of an advert, so we'll get back to another question, but single click optimizer or advanced options. I could, if I want, from Fantasy Football Fix's algorithm, just go single click optimize, not tell it what I want it to do, and then it will suggest to me I should change Pope to Adrian and I should captain Sterling. And it says, should increase my points over 5 game weeks by 7 points. Now, I'm not going to make that move, but for instance, if I wanted to be a bit more restrictive on them, say I wanted to make 2 transfers this week, how many game weeks to project? So, what gain am I looking for? Am I looking for long-term gain or short-term gain? So if I knew I was playing my wild card, I could literally go, okay, I just want the best transfers to make for 1 game week. You can also go, I want to focus my transfers on outfield players, get rid of the goalkeepers, and put no emphasis on substitutes. You can also ask it to plan future transfers, but we're not going to do that now because that takes a little bit longer for it to do. And it suggests that if I wanted to increase my points, then Rico to Tomori, I don't even know who that is, and Barnes to Jolinton. So the algorithm suggests Jolinton will perform better than Barnes. I'm not going to go with that. But it's just interesting to see what their algorithm suggests. You do also have, I may have already shown it. I think I did. Predicted points and stats is always interesting to have an actual look at as well. So it suggests over the next, from this game week to game week 9, Sterling will be the highest point scorer, but Salah will be pretty close, Aguero will be pretty close. Still suggests Kane will score goals. Is there anyone of real interest that pops up out of nowhere? Not really. They're kind of the players you imagine would do well. But you could, of course, drop that down. Well, you wouldn't do that, would you? If you just wanted to know who it suggests will score the most. In 1 game week, it's saying Sterling, which is why it keeps suggesting Sterling as captain. It suggests Vardy might do well. Again, we're looking for a random differential though. Henderson. Thinks Henderson might get something in Sheffield United's game. But there you go, just a quick look at that. Let's not dwell on that for too long. And let's try and find another question. Sterling or Aguero captain? I would always go Sterling. I mean, don't get me wrong, Aguero is completely capable of a hat-trick and having a massive game week. Reason I go Sterling is because midfielders get more points for goals. And I just feel like Sterling and Salah, because they're midfielders, just beat out the likes of Aguero. I think FPL have done their best to drop them in price a bit, these strikers, so that it's not as big an issue. The fact that strikers score less for goals. Percy Lynch, I agree with that initial assessment. I thought Ceballos would get the assist of the assister, and straight after I said that, he got an assist. But I definitely think he could be someone that makes that team tick a little bit better, which could make the likes of Aubameyang even more interesting, and Pepe is still someone I'm watching. I'm going to be honest, Edson. Son doesn't appeal to me purely because that Spurs side without Emerson worries me. Now Emerson might stay, but he didn't start. I feel like Emerson should be a starter, even if he's potentially going to go. I'm not sure about that side without Emerson. So I'm waiting to see a Spurs side that I'm interested in having a player from. Brian Newell. My issue is West Ham's defence is poor. Deulofeu had good underlying stats and he still didn't score. And I feel like the fact that he can play on the left makes him less intriguing because he's a striker. If he was a midfielder, I'd be more happy to keep him. If he was a midfielder, then Perez and Jota would be the ones I definitely want to get rid of. Because he's a striker, he kind of drops in value to me a bit. I mean, you could do that. The fact is, Sterling and Aguero are going to score quite a few goals. The issue is there a defender that I'm happy to have in Zinchenko's place? And it's still a struggle to fit a Sterling, a Salah and Aguero into a side. That's going to be really difficult. Mount or Martial injury updates. Let's have a look. If you don't know, this site is Premier Injuries. It's the site I like the most anyway to check up on injuries. It doesn't give you any false information. It doesn't speculate. As far as Mount is concerned, calf shin heel injury. It's more of a kick on his calf, which is better news than a strain of any sort. Hopefully he'll recover. Potential for him to play is at 50% likelihood to play. And as far as Martial, we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully it won't be too bad. Maybe we can have him training during the week. Again, 50%. So there's no major update. This is why I might go Cadwell and Pukki for one game week and then bring Mount in for Dendonka. Percy Lynch, I'm still not... So the way I've approached the game, and you can see it quite easy on my side, is 5 of my players are from the top 2 teams in the league. I'm waiting to see... how you doing, VTMPI Soccer? I'm sure I've seen you in the chat before. Anyway, sorry, back to the question. The reason I haven't gone heavy on Spurs, Arsenal or Chelsea, or Man United, as you can see I actually have none of them, is because I'm not confident which is the best option yet. I'm starting to lean towards Chelsea just because of the value that some of their players offer, and Man United because of the value some of their players offer. At Arsenal, the only ones I'm interested in are Aubameyang, and then I'm waiting for Pepe to get used to that side. If I look at Spurs, right now, no one jumps out at me as someone I need to own in that Spurs side. So my focus currently is on, if I was going to get someone from the top 6 that isn't Liverpool or Manchester City, it would be Martial, Rashford, maybe Pogba, maybe Luke Shaw for his attacking threat. And then at Chelsea, Mount, Emerson, maybe Abraham if he was nailed. But I feel like Mount and Emerson are the only 2 I'm really interested in at Chelsea. Jorginho is a decent pick if you want the penalty taker, because I think he's still pretty cheap. Ethan Vega, never make rage transfers, mate. Never. Mane to Salah, I just want to say this, because you made that move. I actually believe your team is stronger, but I wouldn't have taken 5 transfers unless you're wildcarding. Mane and Salah, I believe, could just be one of those situations where one game week one does well, one game week the other does well. There'll be some game weeks where they both do well. It's too early for me to say for definite, but I feel like it's just going to be extremely close between the 2 of them. If it is extremely close points-wise, Mane is actually the better option because he's better value. I feel like right now, unless I needed that money for something, I'm going to stick with Salah just because he's the one I've got. Lots of people wildcarded and went to Mane, and then they watched Salah score. I feel like chasing the points from those 2 players, Mane and Salah, could cause you more damage than good. So I'd be patient with whichever one you own And only if you really see something that makes one stand out over the other would I switch. Jeff Holt asks about only having Digne and then cheap defenders. I would suggest the season will go through patches where defence won't be getting clean sheets. Usually it's not at the beginning of the season. However, of course, it is now, seeming like the big defences aren't keeping those clean sheets. I would suggest that it could work, but I wouldn't chop and change. I'd either decide that is your strategy or decide it's not, and then stick with it. There'll be high points, there'll be low points. If you're going for cheap defenders, Lundstrom, of course, great option. I would look for other players that could potentially get attacking returns. Montoya seems to be one that has that potential. And then you could, of course, put more money in midfield. I personally think midfield will be the highest area for points. Well, it always has been. Like, midfielders score the most points because they get 1 point for an assist. 1 point for a clean sheet. More likely to get assists than a forward. And some midfielders nowadays are pretty much playing as strikers. Clean sheet can be wiped out with a simple mistake like Adrian at Southampton. So your defenders, unless they have very high chance creation or goal scoring capabilities, do you really need them if it seems like it's going to be a season where there's not as many clean sheets? I'd say it's too early to make that exact judgment that there'll be less clean sheets. I still think City and Liverpool will keep clean sheets at some point. They've been unlucky at times. But generally, midfielders will score you more points. It's just figuring out which midfielders are going to score highly enough. There's the potential for someone to be a Mahrez or a King when he was a midfielder and score quite highly. If you can figure out those players at cheap price, do you need to really go heavy in midfield? I would suggest you need the likes of Sterling, Salah, Mane because they will score the most points in the season and their captaincy choices. But if you can find your Sigurdsson or your Fraser from last year at around 8 million, do you need to go that heavy in midfield and save that much in defence? That's a question you've got to ask yourself. I'm quite happy with my defence at the moment. There's the option for me to maybe... Zinchenko's been unlucky not to get something attacking-wise. Alexander-Arnold just is great at creating chances. Digne's same. They could have some big hauls if they get a clean sheet and an assist that could save a game week if my attacking players don't perform. So I'm quite happy with the defence I've got. Percy Lynch wants me to compare Aubameyang and Aguero. Now this is quite a small data pool. It's only 3 game weeks. But yeah, we're happy to do that. So we go Aubameyang and we go Aguero. So, if we look at the heat map first, my issue with Aubameyang is more an issue with Emery, where, I don't know, does he play better when he plays out wide? I generally feel he plays better when Lacazette is on the pitch, and Lacazette is the kind of striker that's going to stay more in the centre. Maybe that means Aubameyang has more licence to roam. I don't know why. I have no clue why Arsenal played the tactic they played against Liverpool. That really baffled me. Heat map suggests he's very forward. Aguero, potentially because of the way Man City plays, heat map suggests he's deeper. Shots wise, Aubameyang's had more shots. Aubameyang's had more passes. He's played less minutes though, if I'm correct. Yes, he has. Assists is very similar. Average position, very similar. I'm actually interested to see where these attempted assists come from. Aguero's attempted assists are very short passes. That assist there just looks like he laid it off and someone took a long shot. Pepe took a long shot. None of those chances were very high expected assists. Neither are Aguero's really. Where are the shots coming from? This is something you'll see a lot with Man City players. The ball coming out wide around this area and someone passing it across, for an easy tap in. Often in the half space as well, just outside the 6-yard box, and someone just gives someone an easy chance. I would the issue I have with Aguero, because he's got higher expected goals, scored more goals from less shots. Expected assists is very similar. The problem I have with Aguero is you have Sterling. You have other options in City's side. For me, Aubameyang's the best option in that Arsenal side. So even though the stats suggest Aguero, I'm quite fond of Aubameyang as a pick. Compare Jota and Barnes. I mean, you're not going to like it, but I can definitely do that as well. Got to find Jota. He's not exactly scored high. Is it Wolves Jota? Is Aston Villa Jota a striker? I don't think he scored though either. I don't remember seeing. He may have got an assist though. He might be a midfielder. Not too familiar with Aston Villa Jota. It was Aston Villa, wasn't it? Can see how. Yeah. Just stop talking about those two and compare these two, and just assume Alex the Kid wanted to compare these two. So, shots wise, again, I mean Barnes is just going to be more of an out and out goal scorer. Jota was appealing last year because he was a midfielder. But for me, yeah, Jota's expected to drop back a lot more. Attempted assists, you're going to get more attempted assists from Jota than you are Barnes. Average position isn't too bad, but just these. Maybe you don't need to bring him in this game week because of his opponent, but actually, that's the point. Could be Harvey Barnes as well. I just assumed it was the man that everyone's talking about, Ashley. Okay, it was Wolves Jota. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I thought Wolves wouldn't be a side that the Europa League would affect that much. I'm starting to think it is. Even though they played one game where they didn't start Jota, they didn't start Jimenez. For me, I think unless something changes, I'm not too fond of Wolves players right now. Which is surprising because I thought I'd go into this season being very high on Wolves, Everton and Leicester. I'm now looking at Burnley and Norwich and Aston Villa. So, you know, the game always changes. Compare McGinn and Trossard. As for Saraba Avama, I would definitely look at Barnes over Wilson and Jota. Because Barnes offers more value than Wilson because he's cheaper and he's better than Jota. Okay, we've got Wan-Bissaka and Emerson, and we've got McGinn and Trossard. I'm on forwards, so McGinn and Trossard. I'll have to go next page for Trossard. Or am I doing my blind trick again? Oh, there he is. Okay, so Trossard is more advanced with a better looking heat map. Less shots, but I think he's had less minutes. He has. Where have the shots come from? I mean, that's a good position to have a shot from. But other than that, very similar outside the box. Trossard, attempted assists, he's had more, despite less minutes played. Looks like he could be on set pieces as well. I feel like Trossard seems a better option. Because if he'd had the same amount of minutes, I think Trossard is better than McGinn. Paul, I would say part of you is definitely right. If you remember Mitrovic from last year, everyone jumped on that Mitrovic bandwagon and then it derailed sharp. But to me, Norwich look decent as a side, just generally. They look like they could do okay in the Premier League and someone's going to be scoring their goals. They're an attacking side. As for Barnes, Burnley have a history where they do perform okay in the league, and Barnes looks on form. Now, yes, they could both be derailed. I'm not saying they'll continue the season at the rate they're currently playing at. But right now they're offering such great value and they look like players that can score goals. Look, we can look at stats, and don't get me wrong, I absolutely love looking at stats. I use stats to also make my decisions. But Emerson, there we go. My issue is if you could look at stats and be misled to thinking someone's getting lots of shots and they're about to score goals, but then if you watch the games, they're taking shots from stupid positions or when there's lots of players in front of them. So I like to watch and look at the stats. As far as Emerson and Wan-Bissaka, I mean, I would lean towards Emerson off of what I've seen in game. Wan-Bissaka looks like a bonus point magnet if the clean sheet is there as well, especially. But Emerson looks like he could get some attacking returns, and I mean, you can see that in the shots and the attempted assists. So these are some decent areas for attempted assists. There's some decent areas for shots for a left back. Heat map wise, similar-ish. But I just think expected goals a lot higher for Emerson. Expected assists a lot higher for Emerson. I would go towards Emerson. Do you... Wait, let's see. I just want to make sure I get... I saw someone else looking at Maddison and Lanzini. Alright, let me just get that on the screen. And then someone's asked, and I do like to end on a different topic, and the Wildcats do it as well. Should be streaming them tomorrow if you want more of my pretty face. But enough about my pretty face. We'll do Maddison and Lanzini comparison. If you want more comparisons, come back to the stream. I plan on streaming again this week. But Maddison, there he is, and Lanzini. Okay, so heat map wise, Lanzini's a lot more restricted. It looks like Maddison has a freedom to roam. Maddison's had more shots. Attempted assists is actually higher for Lanzini, which surprises me. But I would suggest the assists, Maddison's assists seem to have a better chance of becoming a goal. At least that's my automatic opinion when I look at some of these assists that Lanzini's got. Yeah, they don't have the highest chances of being converted. Average position, Maddison's a little bit more advanced, has higher expected goals and higher expected assists. I would go with Maddison, although I'm pretty confident Lanzini is cheaper. He is. Maddison for me looks like he could have a great season. Anyway, guys, I know there's more questions out there. Apologies. Do go check me out on Instagram, JNO_FPL. I do plan to potentially do some live streams or, go live on Instagram, however you call it on there. So you can ask me questions on there as well. It won't be as stat heavy. I won't have the website necessarily in front of me, but feel free to check me out there, ask me questions when I'm live on there. Just want to end it on someone asked me, do I make a fortune from YouTube? Not all of you may be interested in this, but I feel like you just want to know. Why not tell you? I do now make money off of YouTube. I'd say until I hit about last year in the summer when I was around 5,000 and I grew quite considerably then, I wasn't making much at all. I'd be lucky if I made maybe $80 a month, potentially. Now I can get close to $200 a month just from ad revenue. Then I do have some sponsors. So it's not a wage yet, but it is helping me a lot more considerably than it did initially. So, okay, my Twitter, is JNO_FPL. I have changed it recently, so apologies, at JNO_FPL, Paul. Am I making a bit of money doing it now? Yes. Issue is, of course, sponsors, they don't necessarily stick around, they come and go. But I am making a bit more money than I was this time last year. Hopefully you'll see that get invested into the channel. so I can keep growing it. Yes, ideally I'd want to make enough to do this full time. The dream is to be able to stream every day, make a video every day, even when there's games being played, have an instant reaction to the games, and then to produce more and better content for you guys. That is the dream. Right now I make some money, but I don't make a fortune. I wish I made a fortune. If I made a fortune, I could stream any time of the day and have a room which I could soundproof so you couldn't hear the kids ranting and raving because I don't want to go to sleep. But hopefully one day, with your guys' support, you're all helping me get there, which is much appreciated. The patrons are supporting me through that. You guys supporting by watching, by hitting that like button, by hitting that subscribe button, by hitting that notification bell, by interacting with me on all these social media platforms. You guys help me immensely. So much appreciated. And we'll end on that with a massive thank you, because this is your guys' channel as well as mine. You guys have helped me get to this place where my button's making what? Okay, very interesting comment in the chat. But you guys have helped me get here by supporting me, by liking my content, and by having faith in me, all that kind of stuff. So thank you guys so much. When I started, did I want it to reach this point? Yes. Did I think it would when I started 5 years ago? Not necessarily. 4 years ago, I think. Yeah, 4 years ago I started. So thank you, and we'll end the stream there. So again, if you want to support the channel in any way, links are in the description. Hopefully we will get the chat feature working, the voice chat feature working, so we can talk to some patrons about their team. I am also thinking of just setting up open Discord that everyone can join, and we can get some of you calling in from there as well. I know FPL Elite did it first, but I have always planned to do this. So look for new things on the stream, because I'm planning to do it a lot. Oh, thank you so much, VTMPI Soccer, with a super chat, so I better answer that question. But yeah, we'll end it there, as in all the goodbyes and stuff. Quickly answer that question. Went triple Man United, Rashford to Haller or Martial to Maddie? I would stick, as long as the injury isn't a serious one, with Martial again, because he's a midfielder and he's cheaper, and he seems to be the one playing more as a striker than Rashford. Rashford is still a good option. Out of the two options you're going towards, I would say I prefer Maddison to Haller right now, but it's because I know more about him and I trust him more as far as my knowledge of Maddison compared to Haller. But I prefer Martial, so I'd probably make the move to Haller myself. So, thank you so much for that super chat, and we'll end it there. I've been JNO, this has been FPL Today, and remember, it's all about the game.